Hello, YouTubers. This is Danny97, aka Orion, and this is my 8th Thomas commentary. Today I'm doing the episode James Learns a Lesson, which, although James was introduced in the previous episode, Thomas Saves the Day, this is really where we get to learn more about his true character. One of my favorite parts about this episode is the music. Mike O'Donnell and Junior Campbell's theme for James is really put to good use throughout the entire episode. It's very jazzy and piano-oriented, which I like. Another great thing about this episode is Ringo Starr's narration. In this episode, he's much more enthusiastic than in some of the previous episodes, and even some of the later episodes that he narrated. He just seems to have a real enthusiasm for the characters and the story itself.
When at last they stopped at the next station, 2 coaches were beyond the platform. They had to go back to let the passengers out. But no one seemed to know about the Topham's new hat, so James felt happier. Presently, they came to the station where Thomas was waiting with his 2 coaches. "Hello, James," said Thomas. "Feeling better?"
I used to really like this episode when I was a kid. I really liked the video as well, James Learns a Lesson and other Thomas stories. But I also really enjoyed this episode, and I enjoy it now as well. And I do like that little cameo by Thomas there. After all, the show is called Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends, so it only makes sense that Thomas would make a cameo, and it just shows his status on his branch line currently.
They ended their journey and rested before setting off for home. James was still wondering what Sir Topham would have to say about his new hat. Next morning, he spoke severely to James. "If you can't behave, I shall take away your red coat and have you painted blue." James didn't like that at all. He was very rough with the grumbling coaches as he brought them to the platform. "Don't talk, come on," he called to them. Gordon never has to fetch his own coaches.
And I think that this episode also does a great job of combining 2 railway series stories, James of the Top Hat and James of the Coaches. And of course, what happens later in the episode, where the bootlace is used to mend the hole in the coaches, is referenced throughout many episodes through the rest of the first season, and occasionally in other seasons as well.
"Hurry, Pup James. You're going too fast. You're going too fast," replied the coaches. James laughed and tried to go faster.
Like right here is a great example of how the James theme is used.
"We're going to stop." "What's the matter?" James asked his driver. "The brakes are hard on. Leak in the pipe, most likely. You've banged the coaches enough to make a leak in anything. How shall we mend it?" said the conductor. "We'll do it with newspaper and a leather bootlace," replied the driver. "Well, where is the bootlace coming from?" asked the conductor. "Ask the passengers," said the driver.
Just as I said that the previous episode, Thomas Saves the Day, feels very short, I mentioned that in my commentary, this episode actually feels quite long, probably because it combines 2 stories, but it's actually, like I said, just the standard length, 4 minutes and 30 seconds.
How bad he was instead. Everyone was very cross. At last, he handed his laces over. The driver tied a pad of newspaper tightly round the hole in the brake pipe.
And in the railway series, the man who gives up his bootlace is actually given a name, and that name is Jeremiah Joblin.
But he was a sadder
And
and wiser
I do believe that this is the last time that we ever see Henry's Tunnel until Season 4, Henry and the Elephant.